Hello everyone, this is chapter 21 of the Nowhere Emporium and it is called Fear. Daniel had been walking with Sharpe for over an hour. They were searching one of the wonders, an Egyptian pyramid filled with golden corridors from top to bottom, because Sharpe thought silver's magical trace was stronger there. "You carry that book around like it's a great weight," Sharpe said, tapping on the Book of Wonders with his cane through Daniel's jacket. "Well, it sort of is," said Daniel. "All that power." "Power is a good thing," said Sharpe. "Aye, and dangerous too," said Daniel. "When I first came here, Mr. Silver trusted me to write in the book. I was actually quite good at it. And then one day I wrote something without asking him. I thought I knew what I was doing when really I didn't have a clue, and I nearly did some serious damage. Now Mr. Silver wants me to wait until I'm ready for the responsibility." Sharpe shook his head. "Making mistakes is how we learn," he said. "I'll bet you are more ready than you think." Sharpe spun left and stopped, sniffing at the air. He narrowed his eyes and touched a hieroglyph on the wall, causing part of the wall to open up, revealing a secret room. In the centre of the room sat a stone sarcophagus. The dry air caught in Daniel's throat. "You don't think—" "He's not in there, is he?" Sharpe said nothing. He approached the tomb, which was shaped roughly like a man. He gripped the lid with his big hands and pushed. Stone grated upon stone as the lid began to move, until there was a gap large enough to look through. Daniel leaned over, praying Silver was not inside. A fluttering explosion sent him tumbling back. A dark cloud of screeching bats erupted from the sarcophagus. They were in his hair, on his face, crawling on his skin. Sharpe grabbed Daniel and dragged him out of the main passage, slamming his hand on the hieroglyph. The door closed, locking the bats in their tomb. "Definitely not in there," said Sharpe. They left the pyramid and began walking the Emporium passageways. The cracks in the walls were becoming more pronounced and fissures had appeared on some of the floors. "Tell me, Daniel Holmes," said Sharpe after a while, "what are you scared of?" The question came from nowhere, and it caught Daniel off guard. He thought for a moment, and then said, I don't know." Sharpe grinned. The stairs were getting steeper. Daniel struggled to keep pace. "You are frightened of something. I can smell it in the air around you. There's no shame in it, Daniel, but I will tell you this. Whatever it is, whatever frightens you, it must be overcome. To be a truly great magician, you must be fearless. Lucian is a perfect example of a missed opportunity. I know him better than anyone. I've seen how his fears have bound him like chains, and I wonder what he might have achieved had he not spent his life running away." "Running from what?" said Daniel. Sharpe waved a hand in the air as though he was swatting away a fly. "That doesn't matter. What does matter is that he has wasted his life wrapped in this cocoon of sparkling black brick, cut off from the world rather than changing it. If you let your fears take root, boy, they'll grow and multiply. Fear is weakness." "I don't think he's wasted his life." "You are too young to know better," Sharpe said, turning the tail of the sentence into a laugh. "Haven't you ever been scared?" said Daniel. And as the question left his lips, rain began to spit in the passageway. Sharpe stared down at him as they walked, and the droplets of rain began to bend around them, leaving them dry. He did not answer the question. They walked on in silence, and the subject of fear floated around in Daniel's mind, bubbling to the surface again and again, until at last he felt he had to let it out. "When I was a little boy, too little to properly remember, my dad died at sea. He was a fisherman. His boat went down in a storm with him inside it. Nobody could help him. He must have watched the water rise until there was nothing for him to do but breathe it in. Can you imagine what that must have been like?" Sharpe did not look around. "That is not a pleasant way to die, if such a thing exists. I dream about it every night. I see him dying over and over, and I'm scared that it will happen to me." Sharpe showed a spark of interest. "You are scared of drowning?" "No, not drowning. It's just that, well, I can't imagine how frightened he must have been, knowing the end was coming, knowing he only had a few breaths left. And in the end, in his final seconds, when he should have been with the people he loved, he had nobody. He died in the dark with nobody's hand to hold. I don't want to be alone." The world began to shake. A rumble from deep within the Emporium filled the air, and the corridor groaned. Daniel leaned on the walls until the movement had subsided, and then all was still once more, save for the juddering and quaking of a nearby door and a distant rumble from beyond. Sharpe stepped forward and threw open the door. Whatever wonder had lain beyond was now impossible to tell. All that remained was a room filled with wreckage and with twisted metal and darkness and a spreading silence. "What's happening?" asked Daniel. Sharpe closed the door. He rubbed the stubble of his chin. "There is so much raw magic in this place, so much untamed imagination. It all requires an anchor, something or someone to keep it under control. Lucian is that anchor." At this, Sharpe touched the walls, shook his head, but it seems he no longer has the strength. "Mr. Silver isn't controlling it anymore. Either he has already lost his grip, or it is slipping away quickly," said Sharpe. "The Emporium is beginning to rip at the seams. Some areas will be affected more than others to begin with, like diseased organs in a body. This is obviously one of them. How long can it last without him?" There was a desperation in Daniel's voice. He hadn't been part of the Emporium for very long, but he felt as if it had been part of him forever, like it had been waiting for him, calling to him his entire life. "I don't know," said Sharpe. "Hard to tell with this much energy swilling around. Maybe days, maybe weeks, or months. However long, it won't be pleasant." "Days?" said Daniel. Sharpe gave a shrug. "As I say, I can't be sure." A pause. The corners of his mouth creased. "I wonder. Is it possible?" "What?" said Daniel. "Is what possible?" Sharpe waved a hand. "Oh, just thinking aloud," he said. "I'm wondering what would happen if we tried to use Lucian's book to find him." Daniel's hand touched the cover through his jacket. "Mr. Silver told me not to," he said. "And after what happened last time—" "You're forgetting the circumstances, boy," said Sharpe. He sounded different, hungry somehow. "I'm sure Lucian will understand. It's an emergency after all, and you aren't alone, are you? You have me to help. This might be our best chance of finding Lucian. Your best chance to save your friends. All we have to do is create a door that'll lead us straight to Lucian." Daniel brought out the book and stared at the battered cover. His fingers drummed on the leather. Was Sharpe right? Was it different this time? Maybe he could justify breaking Mr. Silver's rules in a desperate situation like this. "At last," he said. "You're right. It's the best chance we've got. I'll do it."